This is recording 830-830. Listen next 830. It is a part of my podcast series, Speaking to the CIA. You can find me at speakingtothecia.com or at christinastation918.com. You can find me on YouTube, christinastation918, Twitter, christinams918, or Spotify, Scorpio71. Okay, so this is what I want to do on this recording. Okay, the last recording I talked about Bill Cosby and how she stalked me all of my life, and I need to add that in. She edited, it's not editing, she hacked my recording, and when I said I decode my childhood and I figure out what she did to me, stalking me, my friends and my family, all of our lives, and also including before I was born, and also what she did to celebrities, politicians, world leaders, everybody everywhere. She has stalked people all over the planet using ice on everyone since the 60s. And I decode all the crimes that she has committed. So anyway, what I want to do is I want to continue, because there's a lot more, because people were listening to my podcast and then they communicate to me in mental telepathy, and they're like, there's this, I note it down, I'm like, then this, then I decode even more, and then they're like, so we're like working together, then there's this, and then I'm like, there's this, and then they go, okay, this, so there's a lot more, okay, so that's going to be the recording after this one, so it'll be recording 831, okay. This one, I want to do a recording, and this one I want to be around, I want this one to be about Run DMC, okay, the famous rap group Run DMC. Okay, so Run DMC, you're going to have to see all of my podcasts, you're going to have to see my Pinterest, I'm on Pinterest also, Christina Station 918. Gene tried to pull this little slick hacky move on my Pinterest. So what you need to do to see all my pins is you go to Christina Station 918 and then you look at all the pins that I created, or you can find all of my boards and then you find the board named Christina Station 918. I think there's like 2 tabs at the top of it, and if they don't display on one tab, click the other tab. She's paranoid as hell that people will find out that she is guilty, her and her Manson-Nicole and the KKK, of stalking me, of stalking my friends, of stalking my family, of committing terrorism, committing massive amounts of crime for a very long time. And it's all, you'll see it all, it's everything that I've decoded. It's not everything, but I mean, it's a small sampling of a lot of everything that I've decoded. You'll see more of my books on there. I uploaded smaller books on there. And you'll see it all on there. But anyway, okay. And also her impersonating me. She tried to mess with my Pinterest, first of all. She deleted a bunch of decode that I did, decoding ciphers on it. I emailed the police, Tulsa Police Headquarters. I said, here's my Pinterest. You need to follow my Pinterest. You need to follow it, and then you'll see the decoded ciphers on it. She went and helped herself, acting like she was a cop with a bunch of freaking criminals, and wiped out a bunch of stuff, and then ran around posing as me everywhere, and ran a bunch of rackets and made a bunch of money and committed a bunch of more crime. But the reason I put it on Pinterest is the same reason why I have my podcast. When you put something on the cloud, you're putting it on someone else's server, which means if the server belongs to a major conglomerate, Gene Jernigan Roberts doesn't get away with anything because nothing is ever lost or destroyed. So Gene is screwed. Anyway, so I want to talk about Run DMC. So you're going to have to see all of my podcasts on Run DMC, Decoding Run DMC, see my Pinterest, or see my books that I have out there. Or if you are actual Tulsa Police Headquarters, see my decoded books that I turned into Tulsa Police Headquarters. When I went to turn in Gene Roberts, I provided like about 30 books of evidence, 30 to 40 books, filled books of evidence of decoded ciphers. So you've got all of that, and I know some of what I decoded was in these books. So there's a whole thing with Run DMC, and let me tell you why. Okay, so Run DMC are my favorite rappers. They've always been my favorite rappers. Close second or tied is Houdini. It's always been that way. Run DMC, it's always been that way. When I lived in Chicago, they came out with Raising Hell, and I'm not going backwards in time, going over all the ciphers I already decoded. You're going to have to reference everything. But anyway, I was just like, I fell in love with them. Okay, so anyway, I decoded in some of these ciphers, I decoded her stalking Gene Jernigan Roberts and her Manson occult when she was stalking me at the time period point of when I was 5 or 6 years old. I believe I was 5 years old because it was 1976. We had just moved from Tucson to Globe. And we lived in the first house, okay, which is on 11th or 12th Street. So there's a whole bunch of ciphers that I decoded around my childhood. And I decoded all kinds of stuff. Her planning to do the World Trade Center attack, the Oklahoma City bombing. I mean, tons and tons and tons of it. Okay, so in this, and then again a few short years later, but in this around this time period is when I first discovered, when I'm in myself decoding these ciphers, that she was stalking at the same time in New York Run DMC, who are not that much older than me. I'm 54, which means they were children too. I was 5 or 6 years old. They couldn't have even been that much older than me. She was stalking them as children. Then I decoded even more around in the same time period, around 1976, 1977, her stalking a lot of artists, rappers, artists, hip-hop artists. And it is a ton of them, and I've got a ton of decoded ciphers. So anyway, so she stalked him, and then at one point, so now I'm just skipping past the ciphers for a minute. So at one point, I want to talk to you about stuff that she puts in my brain, where she injects the visuals in my brain. So at one point, she put in my brain Run DMC. They were teenagers, which means I couldn't have been too old. I mean, please stop talking like you're me. They tried to interrupt me and try to talk like me. So anyway, they were teenagers, and they were making music. They were in the living room, and one of them was I'm trying to think of who's who. My brain, she attacks my brain really bad these days, because she's desperately trying to get away with everything. So everything was crisp clear, and I've already got it noted and documented and podcasted if I can't remember exact right now. Please stop trying to get me to do that. So then you go and pretend to be me and go, I'm pretending to be Christina. I'm just going to make stuff up because I'm just going to pretend to be Christina. They already have been following me. Please stop. Navy gal. You know she committed stolen valor, don't you? I mean, how many more times do I have to say it? I decoded it. Anyway, so, she put in my brain, they were making music. They were both on the couch, or one rapper was, one of them was standing up. Sorry, just controlling my speech again. One of them was standing up, and I think the other one, one of them was standing up, and one of them was sitting down on the couch, and they were making music, and they were really, really young. And I started bawling, crying, because I'm witnessing her assaulting Run DMC as children. Like, they can't even make music. Like, they can't do anything without you spying on them. And then, how was she spying on them? She's using eyes. She's staring through someone's eyes. So that means there was somebody else in the living room too. And my viewpoint is looking through their eyes. Unless it's like they had something on the wall, a tiny camera on the wall, and then they did a close-up lens, but it looked like it looks like I'm looking through somebody else's eyes. Okay? So it made me cry. Just how invasive she is. You can't even be born. You can't even be pregnant and give birth without her getting inside your body. She uses ice on everyone. She invades every precious moment of everyone's life. She does whatever she wants. Turner, Manson, Nicole. They ripped off this ice. They ripped it off in the late 60s when they did the Charles Manson murders. Anyway, so really, really made me upset. I was crying. I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, and I knew that already that she had been stalking them all their lives. I'd been decoding it because she was stalking me as a child all of my life too. So anyway, another thing that she did, which killed me, like completely freaking killed me. And I never made a podcast of this because I'm like, I'll just start crying. I mean, I cried this made me cry for forever. It still upsets me. Anyway, she put in, this is when I lived in Oklahoma City, she put in my brain video of, and I thought it was Daryl McDaniels. I really thought it was Daryl McDaniels. But it wasn't Daryl McDaniels. I think it was Jam Master Jay. I think it was Jam Master Jay. Anyway, this is in my brain. This is what I see. This is not a vision. This is real video footage she put in my brain. Actually, let me correct this. She didn't put this in my brain. A Marine put this in my brain. He was showing me what she did. And I was screaming, and I was crying, and I was freaked out. Really freaked out. I wasn't able to communicate, and this is before I had gotten Jean turned in. I wasn't able to communicate what she did because when I use mental telepathy in my brain, when I communicate in my brain, right now she has everything muted. She's got like AI firewalls up, and like I told you, she mutes me where nobody can hear me, and she gets in my brain and she tramples around with a bunch of her criminals, and they show off and tell lie. They show off with a lie, like they lie and they brag and act like they're hot shit, and they just spread lies. They're just freaking just having the freaking time of their freaking life, getting away with doing anything they freaking want. Anyway, so it's really hard to like get through. So I figured out a couple of ways to get through. One of them was by a famous director, a really, really, really famous director that I know. And like, I treasure and I cherish him for it because he couldn't take it. He could not take it. He couldn't take it. All of Gene Roberts and her people, in my brain, it's like I'm not saying a computer brain. I'm sorry that somebody trying to talk. They're trying to talk and somebody's trying to overlap them talking, and they're trying to refer to me as a computer brain, and then Jean is going to try to freaking steal what they were trying to say. I don't know why she does this. This is on the internet. People have been following my podcast for a long time, so I don't know why you keep doing that, Jean. Anyway, so he literally couldn't take it, all the blah, 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 in my brain. So anyway, because I'd be like trying to communicate, and it's like, nobody can hear you. She's got you muted. So then he finally showed me a way to communicate in my brain, and that's by talking really slowly, like real slow. Even when you go from word to word, like, you see how I went real and then slow? You see how there's that pause between the two words? She computerizes everything, so she knows where that break is. So she'll latch on and she'll cover and she'll try to snatch the words. So you got to make it all sound like real slow. You got to talk like that. Like, you got to make it all sound like one word, but make a whole sentence come out of it, and don't take a break. And if you keep going like that and you keep talking real slow and you make one whole solid sentence with no breaks in the words, it punches through. It goes to like a reader, like, think of like an OCR reader, but it's a BIC reader. A brain to computer, and like my brain inputs out into a computer, and it scrunches everything together and then outputs the sentence that my brain is saying. So it bypasses the sensors. Now that works, but it does work, but she has groups of people that cover different layers of different sensors. So even if I make it past one sensor, she's got another group of like AI wizards that are blocking that made it through. And if that doesn't work, then they start flipping around who's who and switching and start telling lies. It's just a bunch of nonsense. So anyway, but this is before she started real heavy with all of that. That's more her recent stuff. But anyway, so the other way was to spell letters, to spell in my brain. So like to spell out what I'm saying. The other thing is to write in my brain, like treat my brain like it's a blackboard, like it's a chalkboard, and just write on which I do all the time. I don't really write using mental telepathy a lot, very often anymore, but I still do sometimes. But it's because it's mostly criminals that are reading what is being written, what I write out in my brain. I write stuff out in my brain, and I write left, I write right, I write upside down, sideways. I put dashes and squiggle lines and sparkles. Somebody else is a sparkles, but sometimes I try to do like just dragging lines over the letters to make the letters unrecognizable by a computer reader, so that it makes it through to somebody who has to manually read it. and then they get the real message. Like, there's all kinds of stuff she's got set up in my brain. So I really don't write with letters too much in my brain, but I do, but I don't. But anyway, so it took me, I literally spelled out really slowly every single thing that I could see in this brain visual to the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam was on. I was crying. I was upset. And they're like, what's wrong? What's going on? And I'm like, so I start spelling it out. And they're like, okay, we got this group of letters. We see what this word is. We don't have this group of letters. Try again. So I try to spell again. It took me probably a couple of hours of just laying on my son's couch in my brain, spelling out an entire event of what Gene Roberts did, explaining it to them. And it made it out. And everybody knows what Gene did. Now, Gene since has been running around spreading lies, white peopling everywhere, but because everybody that loves Run DMC and cares about Run DMC knows what happened. See how she's controlling my speech there with the quote, what happened? She's trying to put air quotes around when I say what happened. So you can tell these people are criminals. They don't pay attention to them. They already know they're lying because they already know what happened. They already know what I told them. They already went and investigated. They already went and talked to people. And they keep it to themselves because eventually Gene Roberts will be arrested. And every one of the little freaking Ku Klux Klan honky white people and little MFers out spreading lies, protecting Gene Roberts' ass and playing pass the blame game and acting like they're playing people, a lot of them will be arrested, if not executed. People that she suckers into it, you just gotta not be suckered into it. There's like, I'm not here to advise people. You know Gene's a criminal. You know Gene's committing crime. You know Gene needs to be turned in. You know not to help Gene. And that just needs to be the end of it right there. You know what I mean? So, oh yeah, speaking of, on my YouTube, if you go to Christina Station 918 and you go to my YouTube page, you go click on, you see my playlist, Speaking to the CIA, but you see, like, I have there's like a post tab. Go click on the post tab. I didn't even know you could post stuff on YouTube, like pictures and comments. I didn't even know you could do any of that till like this year or last year. I was like, wow, I didn't even know this was here. So anyway, go click on the post tab. And then on those posts, you can scroll left or right. Go see what I recently posted. So anyway, okay, so it took me forever to get this through, and it killed me. Like, it killed me. Imagine you and your favorite person in sports, in music, in acting. Imagine somebody that you cherish and admire and look up to and love, and somebody putting a horrible video in your head of what someone else did to them, letting you know you freak out. You freak out. I did everything I could to communicate, and I got it communicated through. But anyway, I never made a podcast, so this is the podcast because I was asked, honestly, to make a podcast. They were like, you can make a podcast. People are like, Christina needs to make these podcasts. She needs to make reports against Gene. Christina's the victim and Gene is the perp. You keep saying that Christina has no right to speak. She has all the right to speak. It's her life. It's her reports. Let her speak. But with that being said, also at the same time, with new people that they're explaining what's going on, people want to know what is Christina saying? How is she saying it? People love people. They cherish people. So after I got done with Bill Cosby, and most recently, the last several podcasts, I've talked about a lot of celebrities that Gene Roberts has stalked, and they're like, you can make a report, you can make a podcast on Run DMC to explain to us in your own words without depending on mental telepathy, communicating in mental telepathy, what happened. So anyway, so this is what I saw. Okay, so there was desert. It was desert. Okay, I have no idea where it was, but it was desert. So it could be anywhere from the Southwest to anywhere in the world. It was flat. It was dirt. It was desert. Okay. There were big giant boulders, big giant, Arizona is what I think of as Arizona. Big giant rocks, big giant boulders. And the boulders were sporadic in the scene. And the video was shot, the scene I was looking at was probably about, the circle of what was going on was probably about as big as the size of my room, which is probably like 12 by 12 or 15 by 15. So it's probably the scene was a little bit bigger, it was a bigger outer, like take half of that and then add another half around the perimeter of that. And then outside of that, it's just sporadic, big, gigantic boulders. And the boulders are like taller than my bedroom door, maybe as tall as a typical house roof. I mean, so they weren't like super huge, but they were big tall boulders. Okay, so in the middle of it were a bunch of people, and I can't tell you today, like looking back on my memory, I can't tell you, like I can't see faces. It was a bunch of people. They were dressed disguise. Remember how Jean dressed herself in disguise in my brain in research and put herself standing in front of the bottom of that pole outside the deli, and it was in the middle of summer, and then she stuck it in my brain because she's trying to get away with shit, and she had herself all cloaked and like she dressed in all black, and she hid her hair, put her hair up, and then she had a black hat on, and she was dressed in all black head to toe, and she turned her face, and then I saw her face. I knew it was her because I know her. But I'm like sitting there like, why? What are you doing? But she was disguising herself like that because she was trying to play switcheroo. So if she wears the clothes, it can easily be computer animated over into something else. That's why she's hiding her hair. It's also why she hides her hair on her profile picture. I mean, that's how scandalous that bitch is. First of all, she committed stolen valor, and she's in her Navy uniform, and she's seeking fake sympathy, and her hair is up. She's hiding her hair on purpose. She's being sneaky because it's easy for somebody to computer generate into something else. So anyway, what these guys were doing, they weren't dressed, I can't say they were dressed like that, like what she did because she's the one who did this. These are her people. I don't think they were doing it for computer graphic imaging changing is what I'm saying. I'm saying they were dressed in disguise because they didn't want anybody to know who they were. Now, if she's taken it and changed them and disguised them into different people at this point, she could have done that. But they were dressed, I can't even remember the color of clothes they were wearing. It was just like, they were just dressed in disguise. I can't even like see them anymore. Like I can see them, but I can't see them. Like I keep seeing like cream, like dark cream colored, or maybe possibly they're in black. Like I don't know. They're just in full disguise. Anyway, Jam Master Jay was in the middle of them, and they were gang, I don't know what the word is. They were gang mobbing him, and he was screaming. And he was cussing, and he was angry, and he was screaming, cussing, and angry. He was furious. And they were getting ready to attack him. They just came out and they just like headed right to him to attack him. And somebody had already been attacking him, which I couldn't see because I could just see them getting ready to lunge at him. But he was obviously in response to somebody that had already been attacking him, and he was trying to get away. But he was completely surrounded in the desert by these guys. So anyway, I can't even like right now, like it makes my stomach sick. It makes my stomach sick. Anyway, someone put it in my head. It was a Marine who put it in my head showing me what Gene did. And Gene has since then lied about it. And then Gene even tried to wipe people out when I was calling her ass out for stalking General Schwarzkopf. And I was saying, get a load of this, because you know boulders is slang for boob, right? Your over-the-shoulder boulder holder. Which I don't have Run DMC in my mind at that time. At that point, I'm talking about General Schwarzkopf. This freaking chick said she went to school here. This was in freaking Boulder, Colorado. Can you believe this chick? Can you believe her? I found, like, I'm sorry, she's still trying to control you can tell. They know she started your sentence, I found, and then she's trying to tell lies. And then she's being snarky, and in the back end she's going, thank you. Thank you. She's doing that right now in my brain. So that tells you one thing. Those people that's going, thank you, are deadly terrorist criminals. Anyway, so I don't want to recap it again. I just explained what I could see. It makes me sick. I don't want to think about it. It makes me sick. Anyway, I finally got through. I was dry heaving, sobbing tears in my brain. I'm like trying to spell out in detail by detail, explaining what Jean had done. So I know there is no way in hell that African Americans, I know they haven't lost their minds. I know there's no way in hell. They're just like, oh, Jean, not a problem. Do what you want. Nope. They said even her, like, doing your speech right now when you, like, make fun of Jean, but then, never mind. They're just, stop, all of you. Anyway, so, another thing is I knew Run DMC, I knew someone had passed away. I thought one of the members of Run DMC had passed away from a suicide attempt. And I was going to read a book about, because I think one of them attempted suicide, and I had two suicide attempts. And it was when I moved to my dad's, and I had checked out a book, and I was going to read it, and he said, take this back. You don't need this. You need positive. But he said it in his Marine way. No, take this back. You don't need to dwell here. You need to get healthy and get clean and lose weight, which he's correct. I didn't need to think about suicide. I had just attempted suicide. I needed to get my butt in gear and like get in shape and get clean, and get healthy. But still, I still unraveled my entire life. I'm being completely stalked. Well, this is what Jean did there. She iced you to check out that book on Run DMC. So that proves that Jean really did commit that crime, because she thought she was going to racket it and tell a freaking lie and act like their hero. And remember what I told you, what she did? She threatened to kill Ice Cube and Eazy-E. You remember that in my previous podcast. And remember I told you all about how I talked to them, and I told you everything she put in my brain, and I told them all about her threats and what she did. And you know, they have to hold it together day after day after day after day, really knowing what's really going on, and knowing that Jean is really making these kind of threats, and Jean Roberts and her man Nicole really are taking people's lives, and they have to hold it together. And they know I'm like, would somebody please arrest Jean Roberts? Me and my boys deserve to be in witness protection. This is not fair. And for people to run around supporting and covering for Jean, acting like she's the gatekeeper and the savior of all, when the whole city just needs to go demand her arrest and get people out of her hostage racket. I mean, I'm like insane with this. Like, freaking arrest her. Anyway, so a couple of years ago, it was when I first moved in. It was in my first year I was here living in Oxford. I've been here 3 years now. It was my first year, my second year here, and I was decoding crimes. I had already turned in Jean to the Tulsa police. I already had. I don't think I had my Pinterest up yet, or maybe it was right before I went to Tulsa police. I was decoding in my books. Anyway, I went to research, and I was like, oh my gosh. It wasn't Daryl McDaniels. It was Jam Master Jay. And I had it in my brain the whole time. It was Daryl McDaniels, but it wasn't. It was Jam Master Jay. So then I'm seeing that Jam Master Jay his life was taken. He was murdered. And so I'm like, I know Jean took his life. I know because of the vision in my brain. It's not a vision, it's video she stuck in my brain. And my brain is rattled still because I'm confused between Jam Master Jay and Daryl McDaniels. But I know that she did it. And so now I want to know, how did it get from this point to what what it says on the internet. So I go and decode the crime, and Gene Roberts committed that crime. Gene Roberts took his life. Now, how it happened like from the beginning to the end, and I'm not saying from where I saw him in my brain being attacked. I'm saying for what's reported on Wikipedia, what is there, like how it got from all that in the middle, I don't know. Obviously she iced people. I don't know. But I can tell you that Gene Roberts committed that crime. Gene Roberts needs to be charged for the death of Jam Master Jay. Even that, her obsession with cul-de-sacs. Gene is very obsessed with cul-de-sacs. And then she iced my parents, and my parents were in love with cul-de-sacs. Because cult is sack. She was icing my mom and dad. But anyway, Jay starts in my life. The word Jay starts in my life in grade school at East Globe. All the little birds on Jaybird Street. Jaybird Street. Rockin' Robin. That's why that song's on my playlist. There's all kinds of stuff in it. That's a little song I used to play when I was a little girl, and I keep my whole life precious, and I turn in Gene at the same time. A little hand clapping game song I used to play when I was little on the playground with my friends. And she was stalking me when I was all of my life. She was stalking me in grade school too. You guys already know this. So anyway, so then you got Jay, and then she's got her whole AA theme, and then I find out then it goes to 6th grade, and then the jaywalking, and then her first using the Dietrich occult. She used that. I decoded that in ciphers in 1976. But I'm not even going down all the J stuff right now. I don't care about all her using all the J on my life. I do care. I turn her in for that. I'm focusing on her taking Jam Master Jay's life. So that is the end of this recording.